The smug look right here of just like sitting back in your chair like, I'm so morally pure, I'm so correct, they would never understand it. Someone like me who's a part of real political change, they would never take my advice. I know the true pulse of America. I know the true pulse of swing states, Pennsylvania. My vast experience sitting in luxury cars and wearing $5,000 designer shirts is really going to give me the expertise needed to speak to swing voters in Pennsylvania. I'm so much better than them. I wash my hands of this. I wash my hands of all the dirty politics. Hasan usually has zero idea how to message or talk about anything considering like pragmatism in politics. So I'm gonna go through this video. I have not seen Hasan content in forever, but I get requests to look at it a lot. So we're gonna see how it is.
Vice President Kamala Harris's shocking new flip-flop when it comes to the border wall. You will not believe it. Vice President Kamala Harris now supports a border wall. She backs a plan to spend hundreds of millions of dollars.
Why is this a story? Because Republicans are playing catch up because they don't tune into the HasanAbi broadcast and subscribe at the top of the hour. I've been saying this for literally months. They're so stupid. I can't believe how stupid they are. Like, I've literally said this is such a gimme for the Republicans, the fact that they have a border wall funding bill that they are advocating for after calling the Republicans Nazis for years. They're dumb. That's why they're talking about it now. Stop being so angry and rude. I mean, one side is advocating for Hitlerian border policies, mass immigration, mass purge of migrants in this country to the tune of like 15 million, okay? And the other side is like, yeah, we got to build the wall that we were calling Republicans Nazis over. So what?
Okay, so Hitlerian border policy. I think this mimics a lot of messaging you hear with younger voters. So obviously, when we go through this topic, comparing them makes no sense. And Hasan is still doing this, which I'm really depressed about because he was doing this last time that I saw him. But yeah, Democrats are pushing for making undocumented immigrants and citizens of America, providing paths to citizenship. Donald Trump wants a mass deportation of 20 million people with the U.S. military going through our communities, and he wants to open up concentration camps for these individuals, separating parents from their kids and allowing kids to work in sweatshops in Alabama doing child labor. There is no comparison. Even with the hardest immigration bill that Democrats will sign into law, there is a zero comparison, even if it is neocon, even if it's far right, when it comes to, you know, being similar to George Bush or Ronald Reagan. It's obviously it's not that anyway, but still, when it comes to the border, everyone agrees the border needs to be more secure. Democrats are extremely better when it comes to humane practices. Not good, not amazing, but extremely better. And we're looking for a path to citizenship. Right now, Republicans are talking about white people being replaced in America. And hey, if Democrats keep bringing in these immigrants, your neighborhoods will never be recovered. Your neighborhoods will never look the same. They're not even hiding it anymore, that they're just being openly anti-immigrant and everything.
I bet you're kicking yourself by not realizing that all of Kamala's right-wing positions are just weaker versions of their shit that they can do better, and now they're campaigning on it. Yeah. If only there was someone who was saying that that's a bad idea for quite some time now. If only. But now they are.
This was a project that
That's like the best image of the champagne socialist sitting back in their chair. And when you are a voting demographic that's not reliable, so young people and very progressive far left, when you're an unreliable voter demographic, Democrats are going to move to the middle because they realize you're not going to vote for us, so we're going to adapt more policies to bring Republicans over. And right now they probably should be doing that because we're fighting American fascism. We're not fighting just conservative or liberal or right or wrong or progressive versus whatever. We're fighting for the fundamental structure of civilization. Oh, I don't want to say that word. We can't say civilization because that's a dog whistle. We're fighting for the structure of democracy and liberal democracies in general. We're fighting against authoritarian rule. Donald Trump literally had a supporter attack the media at a rally and said, it's okay, he's one of us, he's one of us. They're not one of us. Trump is openly just calling for attacking. Trump is literally, I'm saying literally a lot, but Trump is a very small margin away from openly calling for attacking the media physically and killing liberals physically. And in Nazi Germany, we know that liberals and socialists were the first targets, and scholars and information and anti-intellectualism was a key point.
Harris once described this way.
This issue is about a vanity project for this president.
Right.
And it is a problem of his own making.
Right.
And listen, when I travel this country, folks have plenty enough problems that they need their president to focus on.
You know what?
Instead of a wall. On the subject of transnational gangs, let's be perfectly clear. The president's medieval vanity project is not going to stop them. We cannot continue to have an administration and a president of the United States who puts his vanity.
Any word on when the year of HasanAbi vindication video is coming? I mean, this is it. You're watching it every day. I'm actually kind of shocked that they didn't do this like a while back. Like, how did it take them this long to finally come with this strategy? Fox News is watching you. If they were, they would have cut this literally 2 months ago, 3 months ago. They would have cut this the moment that Joe Biden said he was going to do a right-wing border bill.
Projects ahead of the needs of the people of our country.
Well, no, because that would have put a spotlight on Donald Trump killing the border bill they did have. And all of this is refocusing on the fact that Democrats are still far better than Trump. Trump is trying to bring back laws from like 1900. I think Trump literally said we need more laws from like 1907 because the laws we have on the books now aren't tough enough. And we need more vicious practices to take care of these animals. That's the smug look right here of just like sitting back in your chair like, I'm so morally pure. I'm so correct. They would never understand it. Someone like me who's a part of real political change, they would never take my advice. I know the true pulse of America. I know the true pulse of swing states, Pennsylvania. My vast experience sitting in luxury cars and wearing $5,000 designer shirts is really going to give me the expertise needed to speak to swing voters in Pennsylvania. I'm so much better than them. I wash my hands of this. I wash my hands of all the dirty politics. I'm so much better. I have all the answers. They just don't like, oh, how dare they?
Let me be very clear. I'm not going to vote for a wall under any circumstances, and I do support border security. And if we want to talk about that, let's do that.
Yeah, that's a good point, Cloud. There's no force that will push them to a moderate position on the other side. The only thing that would push it to a more moderate position, and the only thing that allows us to focus on progressive change and progressive policy, is getting Donald Trump out of the picture. Because as long as Donald Trump is an existing political icon in America, we're not going to talk about healthcare policy. We're not going to talk about the cost of living. We're not going to talk about any real issues at all except stopping Donald Trump. We're not going to talk about foreign policy. We're not going to talk about Ukraine. We're not going to talk about Israel and Gaza. We're not going to talk about any of this stuff as long as Donald Trump's in the picture. Americans will not care about anything except the Donald Trump show. Getting him out of the picture means so much. Even the current topic of inflation and grocery costs being the #1 issue is not matching reality. That is a completely manufactured point by the Trump campaign and right-wingers, because if you look at wages increasing and the purchasing power of Americans when it comes to groceries, things have not really increased so much in the grocery sector. But they did increase for things like medical costs and for housing. That's where American families are really, really, really struggling. But we can't have that conversation because everything's going to be dictated by the Donald Trump screaming show, and the media plays into it. If you watch the interview with Kamala and the interviewer was Bash, that was the worst interview I've ever seen in my life, with such high stakes. Well, not even stakes, but such high hype in general. The questions that were asked of Kamala Harris during that interview were absolutely ridiculous and unserious. Saying like, oh, so you agree with Bidenomics? Oh, by the way, Kamala, I finally have you for an interview after months and months. The most pressing thing I need to ask you is, Donald Trump said you're not actually black. And that's all she said. That was the question. Like, hey, Tim Walz, by the way, did your wife... Did you really have your children through the exact through this exact method? I need to fact check this. Nothing about Tim Walz's record in Minnesota. Nothing about Kamala's record in California. All right-wing manufactured talking points, because the entire reality TV show is going to be structured around Trump if he's in the picture.
But now she wants to, quote, build that wall. I mean, will we start hearing that at Harris rallies?
No,
she has
I'm not
a history of bashing the border wall. Several years of tweets. Look at this, calling it a, quote, waste and stupid. And while Trump rally crowds have been the ones chanting build that wall for almost a decade, Democrats derided them.
His racist wall at our...
Yeah, the interview was not great. but the interviewer was by far the worst part. I would give Kamala in that interview probably a 6 out of 10, maybe a 7 considering the interviewer. But I still think it seemed like she was nervous, wasn't confident. I think she will be coming in a lot stronger in the future. But yeah, she's never been good in that setting. So hopefully she sounds good in the debate.
Southern border.
Quest for a racist
might not need to sound good.
and xenophobic wall.
That wall in itself
Trump
is
sounds so
a
bad.
racist reaction to a racist myth.
No matter how you feel about the wall, you know, I think it's a moral abomination.
America cannot simply build walls. We look foolish to the rest of the world.
So why the sudden epiphany? Perhaps.
Why'd you all call us Nazis? Are you a Nazi now? Now you're pushing for a border wall, it seems. And we know you're not actually pushing for it because you're fake. Because you call...
Well, no. Okay, so Democrats pushing for a border bill and border wall isolates Trump to the real position that he holds, which is not border security. The real position Donald Trump holds is authoritarian control of the government and also racism. Because if Democrats will fund a border bill, but Trump doesn't agree with it, and Trump says to kill it, it shows he's only caring about his own political advancement. And also, now they're only focusing on the white replacement part. So it's really stripping them of all arguments that seem logical. So like, oh, I'm voting for Trump because he's good at the border. Well, Kamala said she wants to do the border bill written by the most conservative Republican. Oh, I'm supporting Trump because he's good on the economy. Well, America had the best response by far of any country in the world to COVID. Trump says to lower inflation, he's going to drill, baby, drill, and we're producing record numbers of oil, and we are leading the world in oil production. So now what is the reason you're actually supporting him so strongly? And then it gets down to, well, our neighborhoods aren't going to look the same, and the suburbs are going to be changing because of the public housing that moves in. And they don't even speak English. And Trump's just saying all this stuff openly now.
Called us Nazis for 4
And it's actually scary that so many people are accepting it.
years. 8 years, really. Who could have foreseen that? Who could have foreseen this easy dub for the Republicans? Who? Certainly not someone who's a dumb Twitch streamer like myself. I mean, I'm a dumb. What do I know? What the f do I know about how this stuff works? I mean, oh man, isn't that crazy? I can't believe they're using this.
Perhaps it has something to do with this. Headlines
Hi,
since
Spencer.
February saying that people support the border wall more than ever before. But will the American people buy this radical change of heart? Harris is betting on it.
I agree with getting out your base, and I don't think anything Harris said has hurt the base coming out. Like they're saying here, a border bill is accepted by most Americans, but the thing the base wants is a path to citizenship and humane treatment of immigrants and undocumented immigrants and asylum seekers and everything. The one issue I saw hurt the base was the Israel-Palestine, but I don't know if that hurts a lot of the base or if that just hurts the segment of the base that is more young, more progressive, that really, really cares about that as the #1 hard issue, and they want an arms embargo. But when it comes to the overall Democratic base, I don't know if they're doing anything to hurt that. I do agree, and I think they've made steps picking Tim Walz and with their campaign messaging to cater it towards the base a lot. But moderates, giving a landing platform for moderates and Republicans is going to be increasingly more important as we get closer to the election, especially judging how Donald Trump is communicating now. There might end up being a George Bush endorsement of Harris. I don't know. But right now, once Trump's out of the picture, I guarantee you Harris is going to pivot left when she gets in office. Now, that might sound silly, but she will be pivoting left because Donald Trump will be out of the picture. That one great threat Democrats had to not do stuff, that one threat is going to be completely gone. We're going to hopefully be able to talk about policy more than we've been able to in the past few years. Hopefully.
On it with a brand new political ad.
She took on drug cartels and jailed gang members for smuggling weapons and drugs across the border. As vice president, she backed the toughest border control bill in decades.
Governor Huckabee, it is a radical change. It's an unbelievable change. It's one that almost made me fall out of my chair this morning. But I really want to remind our viewers, and I want to get your reaction to this. CNN, this is what actually happened with the border wall.
Fly straight east out of Nogales, Arizona, and you'll pass miles of rolling border wall built.
I just want you to understand something. This is a ginormous flub, and it's going to literally lead to the Democrats putting this border situation at the forefront of the conversation is not going to be a benefit for them. Okay? It's not going to be a benefit for them. And they're going to actually, because they're constantly pumping ads on this issue, they are going to be portrayed as worse on the immigration issue because they're the ones who are also communicating that immigration is a national security problem. That's it. When it's a bipartisan bill, why is it surprising that it contains pet projects on the other side? Because a Republican wrote it. The bill is a right-wing bill. The problem is they're pushing a right-wing bill that a right-winger wrote. And I've been screaming about this for months, months. It's a Republican bill. It's a Republican provision. Democrats are simply the ones using this as a talking point. When Biden and the Democratic Party capitulate on right-wing framing on issues, they lend the reactionary propaganda credence. The only issue with immigration is not letting people enter illegally and offering them tools to integrate /
See, this is really difficult because you cannot change the perception of everyone in America. If you could do that so easily, we would not be in this position with Donald Trump. And the media has constructed inflation and immigration as the top two issues. They follow wherever Donald Trump leads them to go when it comes to setting the main topic of discussion. So entering the arena, just now becoming the candidate, brand new thing. We did not know Biden was going to leave a couple months ago. I think they're only 40 days into the campaign or something like that. Not knowing exactly what was going to happen meant they couldn't prepare. So they come into the landscape set as it is. Americans believe this about the world. How can we adapt to what Americans believe about the world, what they believe about Donald Trump, and how can we make a push for the election? It's not like Kamala and the Democrats had 2 years to shape what the narratives are right now. These are the current narratives. And it's important that they're able to combat these narratives on different fronts. So like the corporate price gouging announcement, I know a lot of people that got that, and if you looked at Twitter, you wouldn't believe this, but a lot of people looked at the price gouging thing and said, wow, I might vote for her because prices are too high and I don't like big companies. And that kind of pop politics does work. But you have to remember what we're working with here. Yeah, and everyone has this like social media bubble they're in, as we know. But Hasan's giving this like completely uninformed opinion again. But yeah, Biden dropping out made, I think there's that graph of depression, like among Democrats, and Biden dropping out like cut everyone's depression, I think in half or something. And I could imagine being like Joe Biden looking at that graph of happiness. Here's the point where Joe Biden drops out, happiness shoots up 500%.
Work. There's no lump sum of labor. October 6th, 2023. Seems like they released their big border proposal right before the no date. Like I said, if only there was a person out.
And there was an immigration surge. There probably is need for more capacity. How that's carried out is really important. How the administration. So if you look at the executive branch, the legislative branch, and judicial, how the executive guides initiatives set by different laws, such as the immigration, or such as the border bill that would have passed, even though it's conservative. It's important to remember that an extremely conservative border bill under Kamala Harris will function much differently than a border bill under Donald Trump. The same exact bill with the same exact wording under a different presidential administration can have much, different impacts to the reality of who it affects. Because the executive helps carry these laws out. And ensures their functions. Yeah, I don't like it's the same exact thing as disingenuous too. I don't like the bill, but politics.
Border proposal right before the no date. Like I said, if only there was a person out there who knew what this spelled for the Dems. We had 10 months where they could have cut counter narratives against this 11 months, but they didn't. Never, ever capitulate to right-wing framing. Never, ever concede or cave to the right on any issues. After all, you're supposed to be the counterbalance to their fascism. Why can't they backtrack?
They are.
They would look like unimaginable flip-floppers now. So the best thing to do is just like only run in key constituencies, only run like a pro border wall thing in like very few markets, and only talk about how bad. If I'm going to Arizona, if I'm going to Nevada, if I'm going to New Mexico, I'm running the exact opposite. I'm never talking about the border, or anytime I talk about the border, I'm talking about how Trump is going to deport American citizens that look Mexican. That's all I'm doing. The fact that they're not doing that is insane to me. There was a day.
Wait, what is this argument?
I'm never talking about the border, or anytime I talk about the border, I'm talking about how Trump is going to deport American citizens that look Mexican. That's all I'm doing. The fact that they're not doing that is insane to me. There was a day where I looked up your earliest critique of the Biden admin's immigration policy, and it was April 2021, 3 months into his presidency. Yeah, it didn't take much for me to start shitting on Biden. The biggest issue is one side continues to approach this in good faith. No, they don't. What? But complaining about it is a literal ridiculous. No, they don't. The Democrats are not approaching this in good faith. What good faith are they approaching this on? Do you think immigrants are actually constituting a national security problem? Are you dumb? There is no evidence for this. It is a completely fake issue. They're not approaching this issue in good faith at all. That's
Democrats don't control CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. Every media agency, I would say right now, is working against the Democrats, other than certain certain hosts and political commentators on CNN and MSNBC, more so MSNBC. They're not helping the Harris campaign at all. If you saw the interview with Dana Bash, that did not look good for anyone involved, including Dana Bash, who had one of the weakest interviews I've ever seen. She's getting paid $3 million a year, by the way. So when you watch that first Kamala interview, remember the person doing it is getting paid $3 million a year. But yeah, I would agree with Hasan if we could control every single media company in the U.S. to change this narrative that has been ingrained in American society for the past 50 years. I agree it's a difficult line to toe, but if you're thinking we can move, we can move the entire earth, and I don't know. It's a hard, that's the thing about politics and why it's hard for Hasan to engage. I make clear where my principles are, where my morals are, where my stances are, but it's like AOC said the other day, your moral obligation in politics is to be politically effective. If you are just going to sit back and be very pompous and be like, oh, I'm so much better than you, I'm so much more correct, and you don't care as much as I do, if that's going to be your entire thing in politics, and you don't care about voting, you don't care about voting for who gives you the best chance to do that, you're going to talk about Jill Stein or Cornel West or whatever, you're not doing your moral obligation, and you need to stop acting morally superior if you're not going to push for what creates tangible change.
That's why I say it's bad politics.